If I'm flipping through channels and I see Tommy busting someone's balls, I can keep watching no matter where it is. Same with shows like Breaking Bad. I don't have to watch the first to enjoy a random episode. I find this style of storytelling to have immense replay value because when I'm going through one for the first time, I'm constantly guessing what is going to happen next. These guys make clever decisions that change the world around them. I can't help but create my own character and drop him in that world. The beauty about crime shows is that the boss is an intellectual and not necessarily this giant intimidating man that rules through physical strength. The protagonist seems to see the future better than his allies or adversaries. When this character meets an opponent with the same foresight, it makes for interesting storytelling. Who can outsmart the other? This battle becomes a great game of chess, and the action happens in our imagination. One thing I've always wondered is if X-Files is a crime drama. It has the same elements, but from a detective's perspective. It's serious even though it also deals with the fantastic. Same with Twin Peaks. It has the same style of drama, and it takes the viewer through a dark psychological wave, but I still see them as cousins in some way. When I'm around like-minded people and they ask, "Hey, have you seen this movie?" I'm usually the guy that hasn't seen it, because I tend to rewatch the same shows or movies. If they go, "Hey, no problem, you might like this one, check it out someday," then I'll keep it in mind. But if the response instead is, "Dude, what the fuck, you gotta go watch it right now," it actually has the opposite effects. If it's that grand and I end up liking it, I'm only going to rewatch it another couple of hundred times as well. I'd rather just stay committed and keep dissecting one already established in my life. There is so much data in the world to collect, and if I keep watching every new crime show or movie, then I can only be entertained and take very little wisdom out of it. When I rewatch something, I'm remembering when I first watched it and what I thought would happen on the next episode and how close or off I was. I then try to understand why the show chose that specific direction, and I get something new out of it. I treat it like music, or how Alan Watts describes the meaning of life. The purpose of life is like the purpose of a song. The point is not to get to the end, the whole point is the journey. And the more I jam to the same song, the more meaningful it becomes. When I try and return the favor and share a jam maybe they've never even heard or considered, the trade usually ends well, but when it doesn't, it's because of a common problem that trumps all others combined. So they told me something cool, and I tell them about this one show and how great it is. It's about this man who is at the top of his class, about to enter college, and he is very respected. Has a strong sense for justice, and his book lands on Earth from the Shadow Realm. A notebook, whose name written on it will mean the end of that poor bastard. The show is about carrying out that evil plot of killing all the world's criminals and offenders, and a detective who is trying to catch and prosecute this killer. The cliffhangers are always ridiculous. If we take the narrative seriously and truly ask ourselves if we could justify the deaths of millions of people for a utopia where evil is too afraid to be free, we will quickly realize how selfish we can be. The emotional investments of the show is like a curse, plus the soundtrack is sick. The problem? The characters look like this. Of course, this is just an art style, but to some, it means these fools are going to catch bugs and fly and say some stupid shit before blasting someone with a fireball. It's automatically an anime first, and it's a shame because it's more than just an animation style the Japanese prefer to do. Their stories could dwell inside the fantasy worlds of Europe or take a worldly post-apocalyptic view of the world. Them sharing those shadows or big-ass eyes is not part of the story. We see this on streaming sites like Netflix. They're all squeezed together like some deformed child. It's a way to group a culture, sure, but it also consequently separates them, and their individuality can only be appreciated by a skeptical mind. But even if all of that isn't the case, I understand. Some just don't like animated shows in general, and I can't argue if they find the characters to look a bit hokey. I still feel like they're missing out on a worthy contender for an epic story, however. I find a similar problem with Blood In, Blood Out. It's as good as Goodfellas, I swear, except it's not about Italians and schmucks. It's about the homies and what a gang of vatos with a shitload of pride or carnalismo go through. How they deal in the streets, and a somewhat coming-to-age story about how even the hardest people can change for the best, or even worse. It's also up there with all the great prison movies. Even though it isn't necessarily one, it is an integral part of the story. It has vivid, well thought out, and entertaining characters, and the 3 hours go by so quickly. It always leaves me with a good feeling at the end. Even though very little is resolved, I guess it ends the way life does. You don't have to be Mexican to enjoy this movie. I've seen non-blacks praise Boys in the Hood. If you can enjoy that movie, then give this one a shot. If not, it's all good. I ain't gonna bust your balls.
Get the